Okay. I want to welcome everybody, dear professors and students, that in Saturday the morning you participated in our speech on professional ethics and academic responsibilities. Me, Saman HASHEMIPOUR, from the Faculty of Science and Literature of İstanbul Yeni Yüzyıl University, and hope that me and my friend, my colleague, Associate Professor Timuçin from Düzce University, Faculty of Education, we are going to discuss on professional ethics and academic responsibilities. But as a whole, before starting to talk about the academic ethics, I want to give a preface, like about the global ethics, that why ethics are important to discuss. And then after that, gradually, I mean, we will it would be a brief description of the necessity of the ethics. I will not refer back to start with utilitarian or contractualist ethics and then continue with the Kantian, I don't know, John Stuart Mill, Hume and others, but only about the importance of the ethics. And then after that, we'll discuss on academic ethics, academic responsibilities, academic system and management's deficiencies, about the mobbing and harassment. And Timuçin Hoca, Associate Professor Timuçin EDMAN, will talk more on the quality of the education and how it is related to academy. About the ethics, something that's very important to know that there is a challenge between nations, cultures, and religions. This is so common that everyone knows that there are cultural nationalism, extreme linguistic prejudices, religious fundamentalism are essential topics that need to be discussed today, especially something that Professor Kwame Antonio Appiah from Princeton University in his book, The Cosmopolitanism and Ethics in the World of Strangers is discussing in somehow. And also we are living in a world where humanity is threatened by what Professor Huntington was discussing in his book, The Clash of Civilization, and remaking of the world order, something that after 1990s have started to be debated in different universities in the United States and also all over the world. Even when United Nations called the year 2000 the new millennium as the age of the communication between civilizations, it didn't help, and it continued after the new millennium, after attack of the United States to Afghanistan and to Iraq. It also continued. So, but there is something that we have to know, that no world order will exist without an adaptive global ethics. That despite all distinctions, despite that everyone says that it's something it's maybe utopic to come to one agreement on global ethics, but we need to have such, peace between civilization, and this peace will be achieved, will not be achieved without dialogue between this or that, between believers and non-believers within the framework of mutual respect. So the question here is that, what is the exact function of global ethics? For sure, we have to know that global ethics doesn't construct a particular morality based on different religions and philosophy schools. So it is clear that all of them are different, have different perspectives, so different worldview. Global ethics doesn't replace Torah to Quran to Bible, the sermons of Buddha or Confucius. Global ethics doesn't mean a unique world culture or a unique religion, but it's the fundamental consensus on binding values, criteria, and binding moral attitudes that have been endorsed by all religions and that even non-believers can share. I will tell you some samples of that. How is it possible? That we know that science and technology can't make such a consensus, such an agreement. And in our today's economic and technological, world, that there is a struggle between China and United States and many other, that the powerful countries, it have become increasingly political. Problems with seemingly different theories of psychology, different theories of sociology, philosophy, politics, demand something more. So today, what theologians and philosophers discuss, in one sense, that there are only regional ethics because of the difference of customs, the ideas, worldviews, and so on, but also radical pluralism in a postmodern paradigm based on truth, justice, human rights that lives at public level. And one more, that's a global moral standards exist even among people of different nations, cultures, and religions. This is something that everyone, they come to the point that, however, differences between nations, cultures, religions, scientific views, economic systems, social models, beliefs make to common agreement and morality challenging, but at the same time, it's attainable. I want to refer back to Professor Michael Walzer's book on Spheres of Justice, A Defense on Pluralism and Equality. Professor Michael Walzer, American professor of the D1 University, I forgot the Institute for Advanced Studies of Princeton, New Jersey, that says that despite national, cultural, and religious differences, people are common in being human. In his book, he refers back to this question that can dualities reach justice in the real world? And for him, impossible is possible, and says that morality arises in a local and particular situation. And he gives an example of Singapore and San Francisco, as I remember. But it's here, this is the simply, I want to say that the ban, I refer back to his example, that he says that the ban on torturing children is an ethical matter. It doesn't differ that in different cultures, it's equal valid in Istanbul as it is in London. So there's a clear difference between Istanbul and London, turning corporal punishment into torture for a child. So many historical, cultural, political, and religious elements come into play, and he says that cultural imperialism extends customs of Istanbul to London, and in turn, London's customs to Istanbul. Just as a sample, I have changed the names and so on. But he's a Jewish scholar, but I mean, he refers back to Hillel the Elder. He refers back to Confucius, to Jesus, to Prophet Muhammad, to Jainism, Hinduism, Buddhism, the even ancient the Indian and Chinese religions, and all of them have something in common that says that what you don't like for yourself, we have a hadith like in Islam that tells the same thing, that if what you don't like for yourself, don't like for others. So here the question is that can moral validity be extended to all humanity due to human rights, due to laws, due to rules? And it is clear that some ethical necessities don't precisely comply with the laws and rules. You can't manage everything, that we extend everything by force. Human responsibilities out of these laws or rules comprises human rights. So the example that I want to share is the Parliament of the World's Religions held a conference in Chicago in Actually, they made many conferences that started in 1893, after that 1993, 1999, 2004, 2009, 2015, 18, and this year that with the participation of different religion leaders and proclamate world ethics. 6,500 different religions leaders came together and they discussed, for example, in 1993 in Chicago, that they just imagine that all different religions, different believers' ideas are just come together, and they want to come one point, one agreement to issue one manifest. And all of them believe that the unity of believers and non-believers, including philosophers, religions, social thinkers, is vital in ethics. This is the base of morality for human beings. And they come to one point, and just to share manifest on some points. They say that human must not lie. Human must positively be honest. Human must act honestly. Human must not deceive. None of them, none of religions in the world, none of these leaders supported that people can tell lie. None of them say that people can be dishonest or deceive other people. They say that artists, writers, scientists must support the truth. And this is the most important part, that young people need to learn at home and at school to think, speak, and act honestly. At home and at school, means by parents and also by teachers and lecturers. The new generation should be trained to be honest. This is the most, I think, the point that we are going to discuss on academic ethics, that even when different 6,500 different religions come together, all of them have come to one point. On academy, we have to remember that faculty staff has three primary duties: teaching, scientific research, to publish, to make research, and also help to raise the social awareness. The lecturer who is in the east of Turkey in Kars should help for the raise of social awareness of the society in that region. Associate Professor Timuçin EDMAN has to work for when it works in Düzce, has to work for the social awareness of the people, and me, it's my duty to work for should have the same duty in Istanbul. An ideal university, this is for what we are talking about are about that to improve the quality of the universities. An ideal university supports and develops academic autonomy, academic freedom, something that these lecturers and also the universities should support, that to extend this autonomy and freedom and to merits and academic ethics at the same time. That to help the students to to develop this academic the merits of science, to develop the science, to have the freedom to independently state their ideas, and also the academic ethics that today we discuss. In ethics, always we discuss with the ethic classes or the books start with the idea of the Bentham, and then John Stuart Mill, Hume, and others, and Kant, and many more. And also start from the Aristotle, but this is something that common point about academic ethics, that we have to know that no one is better than everyone. This is something that all of these ethical rules refer back. Professionals can't operate under the regulatory system unless they are aware of the ethical responsibilities. They should be aware about their ethical responsibilities. A few days ago, I attended a prestigious university conference by some universities, managed by some universities in Turkey, and in the gala night and every night, some lecturers were discussing about for 3 days, for 3 nights, different lecturers, full professors from different universities were discussing about that, how to what are the duties of the lecturers, and all of them at the final gala night came to one point, that this is that the lecturers are the kind of role model for all students, and they have to to act based on these ethical responsibilities. This is something that the problem starts when that many people are aware of these responsibilities, these ethical responsibilities, but especially in universities, but some people ignore it for their benefit, and some others don't show reaction to if they see that there is something against the ethics, to maintain their position. And the validity of academic ethical values is ensured by increasing the quality of 3 basic elements in universities, by the quality of the staff, system, management. Because that's like the system works like the community, that to settle the rules, and also to supporting, and then to applying those systems to the society. And this is the common that everyone knows, that any scholar knows, that scientific criteria, as all scholars accept scientific criteria as the primary criterion in all phases of academic life. All scholars accept duties related to teaching and academic evaluation. All scholars accept, this is something that lecturers also expect their students when they say that don't do cheating, or they expect them to don't make plagiarism. They also to be loyal to the basic ethical rules, and the scholars accept to not allow anyone to neglect the basic ethical rules. As they apply it, they also have to evaluate other don't let other people to neglect these values. About this, the most important thing that all laws and rules can't organize, they can't manage everything, is that the self-evaluation. The very important criteria that the effectuality of the staff from university guard at the entrance of the university to the rector helps to develop a respectful institute. Everyone should know that you work for the effectuality of the that academic institute or university. The staff should be assigned after a careful evaluation. Why it is important at universities? Because these academic institutes train the new generation, something that we referred back to the Parliament of the Religions, that they, in the manifest, they mentioned that everyone should work for the train the new generation as the honest generation. The duties and responsibilities of educators and students, as well as their rights, should be clearly defined in this self-evaluation. And also in the matter of the ethics, when we discuss the ethics, mobbing is very important criteria, because mob reflects a large crowd of people, especially one that's disorderly and intend to causing trouble or violence, and not only from the management system, but also from the students, and may confront. Mobbing consists psychological violence, mass attack, disturbance, or distress that attacks personalities in social system. Mobbing attacks personal specificities that can't be changed, like, for example, skin color, gender, accents, and social class. But unfortunately, new social values are made dominant by the capitalist culture that triggers this mobbing. In academy, its actors are generally the people who are narcissists, under threat, are trying to transform their norms into organizational policies. They extremely are competitive, jealous, and emotional, are disturbing creative and independent colleagues or students who introduce innovative ideas and methods, or they support the dominant master-slave relationship. I did it, it's done mentality. So I don't want to refer back to other abusements also, but only to harassment. I will not talk about the sexual abuse and so on, but all kinds of visual, verbal, or physical misbehaviors are part of this harassment. But among the abusive behaviors, this harassment is the most difficult to define, because, I mean, even that it can happen in all aspects. Always, for example, me, that I always have the, because it's also related to hierarchical position and hierarchical order. So it is very the challenging point, because you don't know how to act, and I always have anxious about how to behave with other, my colleagues, students, and so on. So it is very hard to define, but it can cause many problems. And the reason that it's very important, because it causes many psychological problems in the people who are, they experience it. A much more serious problem especially arises when it comes to instructors, because in this hierarchical system, instructor has the matter of the power, because the rule of the lecturer is not limited to their position in the classroom, because the students accept them as consultant and intellectual mentor. This is something that I've told you, that in that conference, after many nights, that different professors from different universities discussed, that you can find that file in CIA SOS, I guess that's the name of the conference, that even they shared in YouTube, that the full professors of different universities, after discussing many days, the last gala night, they came to one point, that these lecturers are kind of role model for students. The student who passes a course with me in Istanbul Yeni Yüzyıl University can't find any other role model from Istanbul University or Düzce University. It is normal that I have to act based on ethical rules. Then after that to be just, and so after that, you as the new generation are going to develop these ideas, and just because after that, maybe some of you find your lecturers are role models, and you will act like your lecturers in your classes after 10, 5, I don't know, or a few years later. or maybe some of your lectures and also apply the same things in your classes. So it is important because it causes, again, I told you that psychological problems, because it's about the, humanity, especially the humanity. Here we are talking about the new generation that causes some psychosomatic illnesses, depression and obsession, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and many more. So thank you. I think that it was just a preface for whatever that we are going to discuss, and I want to pass the platform to Associate Professor Timuçin EDMAN to talk about this, the academic ethics. Timuçin Hocam, if you are, I'm so sorry.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. Absolutely, that was really a kind of an enlightening, I would say, presentation. As you said, it's just a preface, because we are going to talk about more. It will be a series of, let's say, an education in terms of both the students and future academicians are always welcome to also share their ideas or their absolutely mind-blowing, maybe strategies to change something, because as being the feature of all, let's say, system, whether our students and colleagues, together we are going to, at least hopefully we are going to build a better feature and a system. In that sense, in our departments, we have both in Düzce and Yeni Yüzyıl, we have lots of candidates who are going to be either teachers or academicians, instructors, etc., etc. But one thing that I always actually tell my students and my colleagues is that, the first thing also in my presentation, of course, when we just think about the quality of just what makes us a basic human, apart from being, let's say, an academician or instructor whatsoever. Well, there are some universal, of course, predetermined actions to be taken in form of, let's say, the ethical, as you mentioned, of course, ways, but also there are something that we should consider. Like, we cannot just, how can I call it, maybe, we cannot just put ourselves into a full reticence without saying anything or without doing anything, or as you mentioned, we cannot say, I am in the classroom, so I'm going to talk about, let's say, modernism, and it's my job only to talk about modernism, but the rest, it's not my job. No, it's not, of course. Well, when we think about the quality of any instructor, let's call it instructor because it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we are all teachers. It starts from because teaching something. So, I always think about Hard Times by Dickens and this Thomas Gradgrind, this very, how should I call it? A type of let's say, school principal who only concentrates on teaching only the facts in his own terms, only teach facts, but nothing more than that, the realities, etc. But whether it's ELT, whether it's English literature, or whether any field of, let's say, science, we are not here to tell students what to think. We are here to just be an usher, just try to shed light in front of these students, these candidates, these future academicians, and to not to show them how to think, but to teach them in a way that how to imagine, how to construct, how to build, and how to generate new ideas. It's more or less like as Bennett once upon a time said something like, literature is not the things that are told strictly, but it's just drawing imaginary pictures. So because, everything starts with, of course, imagination. Everything starts with first the concepts of preliminary thoughts. Then we either change or modify them into more solid, distant ideas or not. In that sense, well, when it comes to the quality of what makes us human, well, we should be humanists for sure. Okay, it starts with, well, we can even go back to Erasmus about this, but I'm not here to just to talk about all this and that, like from starting from Erasmus to a way that we just draw the line from Erasmus to Immanuel Kant and others, etc., German philosophers. No. Well, here I'm just talking about, well, what is expected from us. And well, in that sense, if we are talking about the ethics of the students, then we should be also talking about the ethics of the instructors, ethics of the professors. Well, it's not only a kind of a, let's say, one-sided issue that I just entered the class and try to teach something to my students without checking them, without, well, just following them properly and trying to get their ideas. Because one thing I always tell my students is that, well, in literature, we don't have any wrong or right, let's say, ideas or interpretations, because everything starts with interpretation, how to interpret the text. In that sense, as we know, well, when it comes to, let's say, discuss about any literary work, okay, well, the students' tendency, and sometimes even unfortunately the instructor's tendency, is to talk about the summary of the, let's say, the play by Shakespeare, or let's say we are going to read something by Thomas Hardy, or we want to go through, let's say, Bernard Shaw, another dramatist. But well, we are not here about the summary, what happened, who is the protagonist, and what happens in the beginning and at the end. What about the climax? What about the rising action, falling action? That's okay. One side, we need these. But on the other hand, well, we always talk about how to interpret the text, how to see the literary devices. Okay, Terry Eagleton also talks about this problem. This problem is also another issue that we should talk seriously about, how to assess, okay, the reading texts or a novella whatsoever we are talking about. But well, what is our expectation? And well, in that sense, what are the let's say roles of the instructor in terms of an ethical teaching? Because well, I am expected here not to talk about the summary of the text. Well, already many students do not go and read the texts, but they generally choose websites like Sparks Notes whatsoever to read, and then they say, okay, I know Macbeth. Okay, I know. You know what about Macbeth? So while this is the question, because while we are reading Shakespeare, it's like I would call it a dogfight, because it's not very easy to understand what he's talking about. You need to know something about, for example, metaphysical conceit if you are dealing with Shakespeare. And it doesn't happen within a glimpse of eye. Suddenly you start reading and, oh, I reckon, okay, I understand Shakespeare. All right. No, it's not this for sure. We need to also have lots of things like the geographical features, like the biography of the author, like the let's say denomination of the author, especially if you are talking about English literature, whether he's Catholic, he is Puritan, he is Anglican, he is Calvinist or whatsoever, okay, maybe atheist. And I also need, of course, in that sense, the time, 16th century, 17th century, 18th century, 19th century. Well, most of the time, well, if the instructor is completely, okay, enters the class with no eyesight or vision or forecast about the problems that would, of course, arise in this classroom, to see the students' background, okay, to see their cultures, okay, and to try to also see, well, whether they have enough reading, let's say, history or not. Because it's more or less like one of our professors, and you know, he used to say, you cannot interpret the things that have already been interpreted. So you cannot interpret the things twice. And you have to generate your ideas. First of all, you have to use your own filtration system And for this, we need core reading. But what do we do as an instructor to encourage students for this core reading? For example, we cannot just throw the 600, 700 pages of novel and say, okay, next week I'm expecting you to come here fully, okay, ready, and well, come here having read everything. Will it work? It will never work. I have had many students who actually confessed later that something like, sir, throughout my education, I have maybe read 1 or 2 novels, nothing else. And this is very disastrous. This is very actually pathetic because, well, it's my very own duty to check, okay? First of all, the self-controlling. And what I do is, in my classes, generally I change, okay, the novels or the short stories at least every 2 or 3 years. And we'll try to always add more articles. And of course, utilization of the intertextuality is another issue, because it's not about only reading in English. Students should be able to also read in Turkish, in Arabic, okay, in any language that they wish to read. But while reading, in a sense, as we know, happens with the intertextual terms, in a sense that whatever you find with the Greek, of course, tragedy, well, these are already late here when you look at Shakespeare. And for the 19th, 20th centuries, you can still find many similarities among the texts that, well, you have maybe already read or you are going to read. And in that sense, well, there should be a well-balanced, okay, a relationship between the student and the instructor, whereas both sides are checking each other. I always tell my students, please ask me questions. Please make me feel that I am not sufficient for this class so that I will read more. This is what I expect from my students. But you see, well, most of the time, each year, unfortunately, this is one of the issues I actually face with. The reading level is, or the, let's say, the students who read a lot, avid readers I'm talking about, are not increasing but decreasing. Well, we can later on talk about the effects of the internet, Google, etc., etc. But the thing is, while in these teachings, there should be at least a kind of a base construction whereby the instructor can at least make some allusions, okay, inferences to make students aware of the work. Let's say, some time ago, okay, somewhere, I asked a question like, do you have any ideas about William Shakespeare? Have you ever heard his name, etc.? And the answer was, is he an ancient philosopher? So you see, well, I mean, you should start from a place, but it shouldn't be tabula rasa, as Locke would call it. At least there should be something. At least there should be something. And in that sense, I'm not putting the blame on the students in a way that, okay, this is their, only fault. They should read. Someone, of course, should make them read. Someone should, of course, at least arouse in a way their feelings, or at least they should be really curious about something to read. And as I said, read, but whatever you read, just read. And in that very sense, without reading, without, of course, having a proper background, there comes the other problem with the some ethical issues regarding the thesis, regarding dissertations and homework or projects. Because when you apply, actually, I believe in projects rather than any exams. But the problem with the projects is either, well, it's the biggest problem of the 21st century, I believe, in education system. Well, for example, when I attend the master thesis, okay, committees, etc., well, you see that there's a perfect thesis over there. Okay, talks about everything. Everything is there. And well, you see English is flawless. Okay, perfect. And only one question, though. Well, who is the protagonist of the novel? And if she says or he says, I don't know, I don't remember, I just forgot. then you start to realize, well, how come on earth, okay, this thesis came to be, all right? And most of the time, you come to an understanding that, well, in a way, if you don't read a lot, if you don't have this background, definitely you cannot write anything. Because we always tell our students that, well, generating ideas cannot be possible without first filtering the ideas. So if there is no input, there is no output. If you have nothing to at least elaborate on, how can you elaborate or synthesize, analyze anything if you have nothing to say, but just, you know, you just read a couple of comments on Facebook or Instagram whatsoever? Because these are, we will be also talking about, but these are not validified, okay, sources. There's no reliability as well. So in that sense, yeah, well, whenever we receive projects, for example, most of the time we see that students tend to copy and paste the things from, you know, personal blog sites, Wikipedia, and other sources, although we warn them every time. Just, I tell them, I just want to see grammatical mistakes, okay? If there are many grammar issues, then it means you wrote it. I want to see some authentic ideas. Just let me hear your voice, okay? But every project is based on most of the time, like he says, she says, but what do you say? Should be the, of course, main aim of teaching, and while getting back whatever you have taught to your students. But well, I believe we need to, of course, improve the regulations on cheating and, well, plagiarism, especially. For example, if you go to Spain, if you go to Portugal, okay, or United States, whatsoever, most of the, I'm not even talking about Ivy League, okay, I'm talking about ordinary universities or even high schools. If a student is caught or it's proved that he or she has cheated, well, they will be thrown out from the school. There's no negotiation whatsoever. Okay? And well, or their scholarship will be definitely stopped, seized. There's no feature about that. So it's very, very strict, very, very strict. Okay, there is no any tolerance to plagiarism, but it starts in the high school, okay, primary school, even, to at least, well, try to teach them what is it or what is expected from them. And but well, if there is a limitless, you know, tolerance towards this, like, okay, you have plagiarized, okay, please don't do it next time. You say this next time, it happens again. And then the problem is this. Well, I mean, it's, as we said, also self-control, self-checking. When these people become a teacher, or when these people become an academician, what will they teach? This should be the question. What will they teach? If they have no backup, or if they have no, let's say, a portfolio of his or her readings, what is it that they are going to teach? Make the students watch cartoons or movies every time and bring me just the projects, etc. How will you spend time with that? You see, so this is becoming an issue, because most of the students tend to ask me, all right, so I have actually, I should say, instructed more than 26 theses up to this day, okay? Some of these were dissertations, some of these were master's theses. And 80–90% of the students, not all of them, but 80–90% of the students asked me, Hocam, what should I write? How can I know what should be the thing that you want to write? I don't know you, okay? I don't know you. This is the first time I see you in my life, or you attended 1 or 2 classes of mine, and you ask me, what should I write? If I tell you what to write, then I will be the writer. I will be the owner of this dissertation. But it's more or less like, can you imagine, well, if you are working or studying on the medical, you see, field, How can you say, what should I work on? Okay, ears and eyes or body, heart? What do you suggest me? It's very, you know, funny in that way. So you will be the expert of this field. You'll tell me if you want go on for poetry, if you want go on for drama or short stories, novels, or if you can't do anything. You see, well, there are lots of interesting encyclopedic sources. What do I read next? By Gale Company. Publishing company. So, well, you can find hundreds of thousands of different sources about this. If you are in a dilemma, don't know what to do in your master's or doctorate degree, or some of the students even talking about undergraduates. Well, every month I give them a list. Okay, you should read, for example, James Joyce, for especially KPSS. You know, that's another problematic issue for these students because they need to pass. So, well, definitely read the Dubliners. Okay, for Ulysses, I'm doubtful because you need lots of background information to understand Ulysses. Highly intertextual, of course, knowledge needed for that. But at least go and read Dubliners because these are short stories. Every week you can read something. And then for Dickens, Great Expectations, or as we said, Hard Times, without knowing these, you cannot pass this exam, at least the parts about literature. And you are going to, of course, use literature to teach English. This is the other part of this issue, because you cannot get by with the scientific texts or, let's say, the non-academic sources. Language can be only observed and grasped and, well, digested through literature, because only through first the oral and then the written literature, then language, standard language, started to, of course, become a concrete thing to be validified as a field of science. So from that perspective, if 50%, 60%, let's say 70% is on our shoulders to make these students aware of the responsibilities, at least 30% should be also loaded on the students in a way that I should create this awareness, and well, they should follow this path. Because you see, well, we shouldn't be talking about the fact that in the ELT or ELL, students have to read something. This is their job, okay, in a way. And if we think that in Japan, for example, in Finland, because these are generally the perfect, ideal examples where education is very, let's say, powerful, tangible, whatsoever. So, well, these people, these students, well, they read at least 100, 150 pages per day, 80 or 70 novels or books for each year. And I'm talking about ordinary students, not the students of literature. Okay, so this, I think, one of the issues is to also we need to solve together to present our students that reading can be as enjoyable as watching TV series on Netflix or Amazon Prime. Okay, as long as you find your own way, as long as you know how to analyze a text by starting from the title to the very end of it. And this is also, from my part, this is my, I think, ethical object, okay, ethical, I believe, role to show my students. And if they do not follow me, then the rest is their responsibility. Yeah, thank you very much, Hocam. That's
thank
also
you.
my perfect.
Thank you, Hocam. I just want to add something more that you have mentioned, very important points. One of them was that in one of my experiences in former university, when the first week I asked my students that what to write essay, all of them were shocked, and they said that we can't write. I said that, but you know how to write essays because you passed prep school, for sure you know how to write, and also you passed some course on writing, academic writing, and first year as freshman. but they were so anxious. And later I've learned that they had the fear because in one other class, when they are trying to have their interpretation of that specific novel, the lecturer says that, okay, stop. You didn't completely got the point of the, that it wants to just guide students to the point, to the true point or whatever. But it caused students to don't have the fear that if I make a mistake, if someone doesn't like my perspective, or I don't know, if I do something wrong. So it's very important point that it's also part of one ethical matter that we should also let students to have their, that the freedom and independence. Absolutely. And so autonomy. Absolutely. I remember in one of the series of meetings that were held by two professors, and I was part of that committee that were just every few weeks were making some literature matinee. We were discussing about different figures and so on, and there I remember one full professor of Turkish literature. She's so famous actually. In that meeting, say that I hope all lecturers that in literature classes only ask about the character will die one day. And all the students have started to clap because, I mean, she said that the aim of reading the literary work is to understand it. So this is our job to help the students to develop their identity based on their own perspective. And so, I mean, to say that, I mean, you're wrong, you can. So that's why in many literature classes, I ask students to say that instead of reading summary of any work, it is better to read it in Turkish. It's better to read it in Russian, German, or any language, but read the main text. I suggest in all classes, at least I suggest one of my articles on that. For example, in one session, if we talk about Gilgamesh, I suggest one work on it. If Baldwin, I suggest my work on it. But after that, I say that, I'm sorry, this is not a perfect work that I've suggested you. It is something that I've written by me, but it is my perspective. It is not yours. You know that I just want to say that if you want to know my idea, because in 2-3 hours, it is impossible to talk about everything in the class. But here, this is my perspective, and you should have your own idea, even if that is 100% different from mine. So, I mean, this is I think that one important point for students to help them to have their, and something that I've mentioned also, and as you also mentioned that it's the students, most of the time, it doesn't differ that even PhD candidates, master candidates that even find us as role model, or sometimes intentionally, they repeat us in the classes, something that we did about our professors. And I remember one day I told one of my professors, I'm sorry, but I'm just repeating you in my classes. I mean, I passed some courses by her 20 years ago, and for 21, 22 years that I'm teaching, I always repeat her and her attitude, her style, her way of speaking. Even my jokes are similar to her. So that's so it is very important to, that we also, and as you have mentioned, you talked about very important point, that the differences between very prestigious universities and just normal universities is that in prestigious universities, students are aware about their duties. They always try to know their rights. At first, they know their rights, but at the same time, they are so active, and they don't say that I did it so because just only to get a score or to pass the exam, but they do it because of themselves. They enjoy it. That the more than, yes, sometimes there are some pressures on those universities and students, but at the same time, they like. For example, lecturers, when they go to class, pass them a list of books, and they say that it is your job to go and read as much as possible. I can't enforce you. After 18, you can't force anyone to say that you have to read this book or not. You can pass a course without reading. I mean, I remember I had a student one time after being graduated, getting his certificate, came to university just to visit us and say that I want to confess something. I got my bachelor degree without reading one book for complete. And it is possible, you know, that to get the certificate, but it is, something that it shows that this student didn't get enough information about the ethics, and also about he's not aware of his own responsibilities.
And he's going to be a teacher, most probably.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is the issue. That is the issue.
I'm so sorry. After that sentence, he told me that, Hocam, I want to take your place and I want to sit in the same office by you. I said that, but you didn't read any book and you want to be my colleague? And said, yes. This is the problem, actually. That sometimes I saw that I've experienced this problem that in the place in one university that the dean was always repeating that these students are not going to be lecturers. I know these students. These are my students, my department's students, as I know. And after that, and was saying, okay, leave them off. They can do cheating in exam. And that day I warned the dean that you make a mistake, because these students, maybe years later, some of them are going to be the lecturer. And you know what happened? 3 years passed after that. Now, more than 70-80% of that class have master degree. Some of them are PhD candidates. They are talking in different TV and radio programs, and they are talking about the health in psychology department. They are talking about the mental psychology of the people. The students who were passed the courses by cheating.
Okay, that explains why we have lots of psychological issues nowadays in the world. Yeah, well, I can imagine that, really, but that is another issue. So now, because, well, today's students will be tomorrow's scientists, academicians, instructors, teachers, and, well, in that sense, it's more or less like a, well, vicious circle, okay? Because, well, from my side, I always tell my students, and I never call them students, I call them my colleagues, because, well, this is what they are going to be. And I say, well, I'm just warning you, I'm just reminding you your duties. If you follow, you follow. If you don't follow, well, I will continue, okay? And, well, whenever I'll be retired, well, you still be teaching English or whatsoever, and you will face these problems, because you can't guess what's going to happen within 10 years or 15 years of time, and, well, we cannot really forecast, or just, you know, we cannot dice on the possibilities. Even we are talking about lots of issues like the artificial intelligence programs, etc., etc. So what happens in 10 years or 15 years of time? Well, the committee members will be only carried on by computers or artificial intelligences, like doçentlik jurisi, okay? So you want to become an associate professor, but computers are analyzing your writings to see whether these are your writings or not, or asking questions, etc., etc. Or to become a teacher, there is such a committee. So, well, if you think that these are, you know, dystopic or utopic whatsoever, confessions of feature, it's not, because already, you see, well, we have witnessed tremendous changes covering the last 10 years. And the existing pandemic is one of these obscurities. And while everything changed from face-to-face to digital, of course, education. And one thing I would like to say, though, on this issue, sometimes also students rightly, okay, and fervently advocating the idea that distance education is not very useful. I agree in some parts. This is a kind of, okay, we need to distill every knowledge while we are having this education face-to-face in the class physically. But, well, you know, in literature, there is one thing that the speech of the dead people, dead poets, dead authors, like when you read To the Lighthouse or Orlando, okay, you are actually having a conversation with Virginia Woolf, who deceased, okay, passed away many, many years ago. Or if you imagine people like, let's say, Plato, Aristotle, okay, they never had a chance to, well, even get a modern, let alone, you know, distance education, any education, but they only read, okay, listened, read, and, well, had debates one-to-one. And through these, we should come to an understanding that we don't need, from time to time, any instructor to develop ourselves. We should be our own instructors, teachers, okay, to educate ourselves. And as you know, maybe from time to time, like we feel in Jane Austen's or maybe in Kate Mansfield's writings, feels, or it gives me the impression whereby sometimes, like these patriarchal societies back in those days, they didn't actually want ladies to, okay, keep themselves in the libraries to read and educate, okay, so that they would know what to do, how to struggle, okay. Nowadays, a very unlike, okay, issue. You have unlimited sources, okay, online sources, books, libraries, computers, the internet. All those give you unlimited sources, but we are punishing ourselves, okay. Like, unlike the people in, let's say, Middle Ages, early, okay, Renaissance, etc., who were even were ready to be just, you know, even crucified for the fact that they were only reading books. Okay, so now everything is well, ready, ever ready for the students or other people, but we don't intend to read. We always want someone to read and just talk about the summary for us. And that is, I say, that is the biggest danger in front of us, right? This topic maybe you would call, but I say, well, this is the biggest obstacle in front of the 21st century's people. We let machines, we let others to think, and we ceased generating ideas. We ceased, okay, constructing our own perceptions. We will talk more on this.
Thank you, Hocam. So I want to ask our guests that anyone has any question, we are ready to answer that if we can, and that maybe. Yes, Mawan, please.
Thank you, Professor Saman, Professor Timuçin, for such an enriching session. Actually, I have to admit that as a student, sometimes, especially with the time bound, when there is an exam, I had to read the review of the book instead of the book itself. Although personally, I hate myself when I do that. I would like to read it from the very beginning to the very end. At that time, there is certain pleasure in reading that book. My first question, if you don't mind, there are some tendencies in PhD studies recently towards pop culture. In that case, the resources like social media, let's say blogs and Instagram have to become primary resources in such a case. So I wonder, ethically, this matter, how can be compromised, or a solution can be considered? Since they are academically in general, they are some sort of dropped or not considered as academic resources, but the study itself, it is academic and it is needed, and it's become like a trend nowadays. I have another question. I don't know, you will answer or shall I ask my...
Okay, go on, please.
The other questions is that I'm doing a certain research and I'm encountering two resources. The same supporting idea exists in these two resources. So it will be just for the sake of putting variety and increasing the list of references, I choose one idea from this resource and one from that resource. How much ethical is this issue? How much crime I am doing from ethical perspective? Although I could have got the same supporting idea from the one resource of them. Thank you so much, and apologies for taking your time.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Hojam, do you want to respond or?
Well, okay. The first one I respond, the other you. Okay, let's share it. So, well, it's true. Well, if you want to have research on, let's say, one of the contemporary issues, sometimes, these personal blogs or, let's say, some of the social media accounts, if not the accounts, or let's say, well, personal blogs would be one of the keys to, let's say, at least find an answer to your debate or discussion. But the thing is, as you know, while we need validity, reliability, as we mentioned, and well, if it's an, let's say, a topic that is going on, and well, let's say it's about a movie, or it's about one of the contemporary novels, let's say by Ishiguro, okay, and you try to find some answers, well, as long as you have a decent, okay, strong realization, which would eventually make your connection, okay, a solid one with what you want to say, well, yeah, you can use these sources, but there should be an author at least behind it. Because if you are talking about using websites like Quora, or I don't know, let's say Sparks Notes or whatsoever, no, of course, because we don't know who wrote these specific, okay, information there, okay, and well, maybe he just took it somewhere else. Maybe it's a part of post-truth knowledge. That means only partially it is true, but the rest is not true, or just taken from other sources in order to make a hybrid, okay, assumption. In that sense, how can you cite it if you don't know who the author is? This is a question. That's why we always, it's like science, because most of the people are not aware, but why do literary, okay, academicians have doctorate degree? Because it's a part of science. In science, okay, can you just carry on a hypothesis whose let's say, I don't know, maybe who suggests it is unknown? Is it possible? Without any proof, how can you just go and claim that in science? Okay, let's say people are still trying to find a final cure, ultimate cure for this COVID. How can you say that I have the cure, but don't ask me the source? What would you expect from these scientists? Okay, that sounds great. Let's try it. If the people die, let them die. It's something like this. So if the source is unknown, how can we claim that there's a very interesting idea? Okay, if you insist on doing that, so then you have to say, admit that I saw this idea, I don't know the source, I don't know, well, who is the father or the mother of this idea, but still I wanted to declare it as an interesting idea, but without, of course, verifying its source and validifying its reliability. In that sense, maybe, but still, don't forget, you are responsible for the things that you write here, okay, or for the citations, quotations that you just through these refer to the text itself. But if there is no, as you know, like Herodotus' history, some people call him the father of lies, some people call him father of history. It's just because, well, we can't be sure about the sources. That is the same issue with Marco Polo. Huh? So without this verification, we cannot rely on any knowledge, because you are going to be a scientist. You are going to have this title, doctor. You cannot say someone said this. Who is this person? Tell me, and then I will believe in you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hojam. And by the way, Man, you know that there are the issues of being pop culture and so on is very important, because you know, in different, also in Turkish literature, there are debates on, you know, what are the some professors find some authors even not as author. They say that the writer, for example, when I was about to write my PhD dissertation, I remember that the one American professor says that, who are you planning to write on? I said Orhan Pamuk. Say that Orhan Pamuk is not author, he's writer, because he's bestseller, and who is bestseller is not author. Even Elif Shafak, that's bestseller more than 50 countries, but in literature, Turkish literature classes, many professors don't accept him and her as author. About the citation, as you see that, for example, in our university, we use this, in Yeni Yüzyıl University, we use APA system. That's normal in many social sciences institutes, because they want to have one system. And if there is a psychology program, they usually use APA system. And so in APA system, you see that there are, without references, without mentioning the page number, they refer back to name of the author after that year and so on. So here, also, there is a problem in literature that you see that, for example, about one idea, there are 3-4 different, refers back 3-4 different works. But in literature, I don't know what's the problem. Even getting citation is very hard, because people have many ideas in their comments. They interpret the same things again and again without mentioning the sources. It's really, I think that's one of the greatest problems in literature. People don't clearly mention they just interpret everything, and then after that, because it is not based on, you know, one research or inquiry or whatever, they just interpret and put there in papers. But it's a problem that should be solved also. So that's why that many people are here we talk about the academic ethics, but we have to confess that there is a problem in literature, especially people scholars who make research in literature.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, any other question? No? Yes, Kadir. Kadir, please.
Hello, sirs. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes.
First of all, thank you for this session. It was beautiful. My question is it possible for us to be able to find the common ground in gray areas about ethics? For example, you said that it's unethical to torture a child anywhere around the world. It's that easy. But for example, in 2016 in Canada, Ontario Human Rights Acts accept a bill called C-16, forces academicians to address trans people to their chosen pronouns. And there was a professor who works at Toronto University named Jordan Peterson. He claims that it is a problem about the free speech and refuse to do so. About ethics, there are some gray areas like that. Some people claims that he was being abusive, and some people said that he was right. Is it possible for us to be able to be ethical on such subjects? That was my question.
Thank you, Kadir. I'm so sorry, Professor Timuçin. I just want to we have the same problem in the classes that, especially on ethics, especially during the first few sessions, all students have a debate about these matters, because we start, for example, with Bentham's perspective. I don't know, utilitarian, that it just, you know, for your contractualists and so on, that if most of the people are satisfied, or it's for benefit of the majority, so the minority is not. So after that, you know, that the different perspectives comes to 1970s and so on, and then as a matter of fact, that's why this is something that all students ask me during the first sessions. Is it possible to come to one point to say that it's a global ethics, it's a rule, and you know that it's one point? It is not, you know, that even it continues, there are debates. And so that's why we are discussing. And so everything that we are talking is not absolute, you know, the rule to say, but here everything is based on our intention, you know, this is something that in the reason that I gave that example, the Parliament of the Religions, the world religions, was that all of them, believers, non-believers, come to one point that you should be honest, you should tell the lie, and they don't tell lie, but what is this honesty? I mean, what is this being true? And I mean, your perspective is different from me, something that I also mentioned in the postmodern era. We are when you say anything, it says that who says? And so I mean, it's your perspective, it's not mine. And here, coming to one point is very hard, because it is impossible, I think, this is my perspective, to come to one point in all aspects. But there are something common. For example, if no one says that, none of these religions says that you can tell lie, you can be dishonest, or I mean, just the new generation can be liar. But I mean, yes, there are many things that I think that it is very hard, and it will take a time. We hope that one day we will come to, and it's also should not be based on laws, rules, strict rules, you know. However, coming to one point by believers and non-believers, we hear, even when we are talking about believers, we are not talking about Abrahamic, you know, religions. So here it is too hard to come to one point. We have a long walk to, you know, what Mandela said that to freedom. This is a long way to get that, to reach that aim or utopia. I'm sorry, Timuçin Hocam, if you, sorry.
No, that's okay. Well, I mean, it's becoming hard to also in postmodern era. It's not postmodern anymore. It's postmodern era. It's very hard to detect or to, as you said, determine well the truth in a way. Let's say, well, I took 2 hours of let's say a private class, how to play the guitar, and well, what if I say I can play the guitar? Well, okay, I can maybe, learn how to play 1 or 2 strings, but does it make me a guitarist? Okay, but still, when I say I can play the guitar, am I lying or not? Totally. Okay, it's more or less like this. So there is this, I think, blurred border, especially nowadays, regarding the concept and the, let's say, the, I would say, this boisterous issue of the ethics. But at least we can come to some universally accepted ethics and norms. Because, as you mentioned, well, we have different religions, we have different cultures, backgrounds, etc. For example, in Japan, all right, so you cannot even enter the class, traditional schools, with your shoes. Okay, you have to wear something called as babashi or whatsoever. You cannot even raise a hand while the instructor is talking about something. They take it as a huge, okay, how can I call it? disrespectful act. Okay, but in Turkey, well, no, I mean, while we are talking about something very climax, a student may raise his hand and ask you whether I can go to the loo or not. Okay, so this we never say it's disrespectful or whatsoever. Okay, just go. Well, I don't take it as a personal, issue, but this is also very different in the United States, in Finland, etc. While in Japan, again, the primary school's children are made to clean their own, loos, bathrooms, toilets. In Turkey or in other countries, well, how would you approach to this? Well, can we make our students to clean their, of course, restrooms? Is it possible? Not ethical, unethical, as you see. So there are lots of issues to discuss, and culture, background, okay, religion, all these, I think, notions are the predeterminants of these questions. But there are certain ways. Yes, well, I mean, if you cheat, if you steal someone's knowledge or paper, that is unethical in a way that, or if you don't fulfill your responsibilities, or as an instructor, if I don't fulfill my responsibilities, it's unethical. At least we have these, how can I say, universal acceptances. But the rest, well, they are always open to debate. It's about the national attitude of the education in a way. Thank you.
Thank you. And also, every session I take some books to class. Just for example, if we are talking about any ethical issues, I take some books to class. I just suggest to students that these are the matters that, for example, this one, I'm talking about this matter. And then after that, I say to just wait up to end of the semester. And at the end of the semester, I want to ask you that, what did you get? This is the matter that all of them, at the end, will find out that honesty is the most important factor, that whatever that we have, about what all the things that we have discussed in the class. If we are talking about the ethics in war, up to time that we are talking about ethics in, the utilitarian way. So the problem of our time is that being perfectionist, self-based perfectionist, that we always expect everyone to do everything, to find the answer of everything. Because of the age of the technology, this is something that I go to class and I suggest my own, at least one article or book chapter for each session that any course that I'm teaching. And that's why I want to say it. And I say that, here I made a mistake. Here I made the mistake. I just want to show the student that I also make the mistake. So I don't expect you to be the perfect. So that's why in the ethical class, my student doesn't expect me to find the complete answer for the ethics, because his professor is not, the lecturer is not perfect. Because I don't ask the students to just, that to be wholly perfect, and it is impossible to find the answer of everything, in the class. And so I think that it is about the ethics also. We should do our best, but we shouldn't expect to, like every topic in our life, to have to find the final answer. It's a long way to walk. The life goes on. So, I mean, nothing is completed, not any science. Why we expect the ethics should be completed when none of science, every day, the scientists neglect the former findings, the former innovations. So here there is a long way to walk, I think.
Thank you for your answers.
Thank you. Yes, any other questions? If not, yes, Ahmed.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, please.
Hello, Timuçin Hocam. Dear Can you hear me?
Yeah, but now it's better. Yes, please.
Sir, this meeting is a huge opportunity for me. You can hear me, right?
Yes, please, go on.
Yeah. And Timuçin Hocam, I had a chance to talk with you about teaching Turkish as a foreign language like a week ago. And I have been teaching Turkish in Düzce University, Tömer, for 4 years since Monday. And I have witnessed the conversation between one of our teachers in Tömer, between one of our teacher and students. And it seems that to me, it's almost as it's like Mr. Saman Hocam, you said that after 18 years old, you cannot say, you cannot pass the class if you do not read that. You cannot threat someone, you cannot threat any student. You cannot say any student this. And what I have witnessed is one of our teachers in Tömer said to C1 Turkish learner, if you do not read this book, you cannot get this certificate, C1 certificate. So it seems that it's like a different place, but the same event. Right, sir? I would like to get your comments on that, because it seems that it's we should not threat students. We should make like what Timuçin Hoca is talks influence us. Like he is an influencer, so it makes us to teach better. If he can influence us to read, and we can tell our students to read. So our teacher in Tömer, what I witnessed, my teacher was threatening another student. If you do not read this book, you cannot get this certificate. So I would like to get your comments on that, sir.
Hocam, Timuçin Hocam, do you want to answer?
I think I already expressed my ideas on this. I mean, if you want to somehow raise the self-awareness, well, you should start from somewhere else rather than saying it like this. Please, they should understand that it's more or less like, if you don't know how to drive, how can you get the driver's license? It's for sure. And if there's a book which is very essential to get this certification, then maybe the way you tell about this to your students should be different. Like, well, without getting the proper knowledge, it's very hard to pass this exam. Would be at least a better way to express it. But well, I mean, we don't know what happened previously, on the other hand, because there are sometimes some issues that students don't even bring their books, texts, anything. Okay, they are not listening to you. They just concentrate on their mobile phones, etc., taking a look to their Instagram accounts, taking selfies, right? So, well, how can you influence these people? Once, twice, thrice. But if they don't want to follow you, well, maybe we should also understand the teachers in a way, psychology. Did he warn them or she warned them before? And what was the initial, as you see, discussion? I don't know, even the tone of the speech may change the general picture that we try to depict here. That's what I would like to say.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank everyone for your participation. 1.5 hour past. Thank that in weekend, just Saturday morning, you have spent your time to participate, and I hope that it was useful for you And I want to thank also Timuçin Hocam for his perfect speech.
It's my pleasure. The same from our side. I think it was a great chance for the students of Yeni Yüzyıl University, Düzce University, and I see there are also participants from some other universities like Karabük University, if I'm not mistaken, also, and Istanbul University, I guess. So while it's the path of the future generations for sure. Okay, I always tell that this is the last thing I would like to mention here, because I always want my students to be better, more knowledgeable, erudite academicians than me. Otherwise, what is the reason to be here and trying to teach something? The latter one always has to be a better one. Yes. Thank you for coming, everybody.
Thank you for your participation. Hope to see you in other sessions. The next time, maybe we will discuss about the thesis and about the writing the dissertations and so on. So maybe this series of discussions will continue, just academic talkings on different issues on the problems that you may confront in your education. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. And thanks for your participation again.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a nice day.
Thank you.